the leader in talk radio on the Internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
All right, folks, this is Rick Robinson with you. I want to tell you about some friends of mine from a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. When I ran my security agency for 12 years, I worked with one of these partners on a daily basis. He's been involved in this agency now, and with his other partner, they do have over 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep you or your customers or residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Give them a call at 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. Again, tell them Rick from K98 Talk sent you. Like I said, if you need the help, they are here for you. So make sure that you go look them up, check them out, and see what they can do.
Wrong way. Welcome to the place.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was
coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely.
Get ready to fight from within. You're about to go behind enemy lines on K98.
Roger, 3-2. Goliath copies all. Go ahead. Target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Baradelli and Russ Gallo.
And you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, America? Gene Baradelli here, and Russ Gallo's in the house. Russ, how you doing, my brother?
Glad to be back, Gene. Glad to be back.
We're glad to have you back, and we got a power pack show for you here tonight, behind enemy lines, live on Spreaker, or wherever you're listening to us, either on rebroadcast or on demand. We have Niger Innes from Tea Party Forward. He's the new organizer of that, coming on the show. And we have what I like to call the great debate going to be happening tonight. It's finally happening. Russ versus Yak. How you doing? It's going to be a lot of fun.
This promises to be one of the funniest debates ever on the show that I could think of.
It's going to be epic. That's all I can say. And I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us in the chat room right now. Got a packed up chat. Ready and raring to go. A couple of new faces in there, a couple of old ones. Talking about Russ, of course. And, before we get started here, the main question is, Russ Gallo, where the hell have you been? I mean, come on, man. It's been like a month and a half since you've been on the show.
Let's not talk about that nonsense. Let's get right into it. Because as you, the people in the chat room know, tonight is brought to you by Single Barrel Jack.
Oh my God,
so,
it is the best stuff ever. Why have you not been drinking this?
We got to get business taken care of quick, because an hour-long show, I don't know how long we're going to be coherent. So I think we should just jump right in to what we got to get done.
Okay, well, let's get into it right now. First and foremost, let's just recap. New Hampshire. I want to get Russ Gallo's reaction to what happened in New Hampshire. We got some Cruz people in the house. We got some Trump people in the house. That'll be Russ Gallo. And you know what?
Slow down. First of all, I'm not a Trump guy.
Oh, I saw the article on www.BehindEnemyLinesRadio.us.
Yeah, you must not read the whole thing, because at the very end I point out quite clearly that I'm not a Trump guy.
There's a disclaimer. Whatever.
All right, let's talk about New Hampshire real quick. So New Hampshire. It's a state that actually allows independents to vote in primaries. Again, everything I'm going to say right now, I'm just observing here. I don't necessarily agree with allowing independents to vote in partisan primaries, but it is what it is. So since they allow these people to vote in partisan primaries, the independent voters, one would guess that they're going to vote where they're gravitated to vote. So the people who came out and voted for a Trump victory, for some reason, these independent voters voted in a Republican primary and voted for Donald Trump. Now, what has the Republican Party been saying for years and years and years, every election cycle? We need to attract more independent voters. We need to attract more minorities. We need to attract more women.
We need to broaden the base.
We need to broaden the base, the big tent, all that. hello, Donald Trump did it, and he proved it in New Hampshire. Then you have people saying, well, he only got 30-some-odd%, so that still means there's 60-some-odd% against him. Okay. Well, so then what does that mean? So Jeb Bush gets 6%. Does that mean 94% are against him? I don't understand the logic of that argument. New Hampshire showed us a lot of things. New Hampshire also showed us that in a two-person race on the Democratic side, Donald Trump got more raw votes than Hillary Clinton.
Which in and of itself is pretty amazing considering how many people were running on the Republican side.
Yes. Now, the last thing I just want to briefly touch on New Hampshire, and I outlined all this in the blog post that we put up on BehindEnemyLinesRadio.us. I don't usually do plugs.
What do you do the plugs, Gallo?
Yeah, I told you, one more jack and I'm done with being coherent, so I'm just trying to put it out there.
Get it out there right now.
So, one more thing about New Hampshire. Hold on a second.
And while he's looking for that, I want to shout out to Andre Walker from townhall.com, the UK correspondent for Town Hall, hanging out with us tonight in the wee hours of the morning over in jolly old England.
I think it's actually 2017 already there, no?
It might well be for all we know. Let us know how the election turned out, Andre.
New Hampshire, real quick. It's gotten the Republican candidate right 14 out of the last 17 cycles for president. The Republican candidate right 14 out of the last 17, and it's only gotten the Democratic candidate right 6 out of those last 17. 6 out of those last 17. So New Hampshire's a pretty good indicator on who's going to be your nominee. If you're a Republican, it actually shows the quite opposite if you're a Democrat. Lastly is Donald Trump and again, I am not a Donald Trump guy. If anything, I wish Ted Cruz would be president. I love Ted Cruz. Donald Trump, if you look at the breakdown of the exit polls in New Hampshire, which this is a perfect laboratory to see where people stand, your independent voters, your Republican voters, and whatnot. Donald Trump won every single demographic in New Hampshire. Every single one. Women. Women over 65, women under 21, however you want to slice and dice the American people, which the left loves to do, and the Republican Party is starting to think about that. Donald Trump won the group, and we have some people in the studio tonight. One of them saying libertarians, and that's absolutely true too. Counties in New Hampshire that Ron Paul won last election cycle, Donald Trump carried them this cycle. So it's unbelievable what this guy has pulled off, and what people have been saying for years they want the Republican Party to do, Donald Trump's basically doing it, and he's catching all hell for it. Last thing, Gene, I just wanted to touch on. In Iowa.
You sure it's not Ottawa?
Iowa.
Okay, you didn't pull a reference.
Marco Rubio came in third place and gave a victory speech. I don't know what the hell was going on there.
Well, okay, so I have what I think is the answer to that.
And I do want to hear it. He gives a victory speech in Iowa and then comes in third place. And then New Hampshire. The talk was all about, who would come in second and who would have the momentum for coming in second. Listen, Donald Trump is a blowhard in a lot of respects. But he's absolutely right on this. Why is it so important who comes in second and third? The guy is not a politician. He's played no active role in the Republican Party. The argument could be made that he was more active with the Democrats than the Republicans before this election cycle. Yet he's coming in first, second, and crushing in the polls everywhere. And what is the media talking about, and Republican pundits on Fox News specifically? Which Republican or which establishment candidate is going to come in second or third or fourth? Come on, man.
And there's a reason for that. First of all, everybody's afraid of Trump, and they're scared about what Trump will do to the Republican Party. There hasn't been a transformative candidate for the Republican Party in a very long time. They may be scared of that aspect of it because, like you said, the base is broadening, and it is moderating with Trump, because Trump does have a lot of moderate views. Let's face it. Pro-choice. At one point he was pro-Obamacare. He does have a lot of moderate views. The reason why they want to give as much traction as possible to whoever else is out there. And they're doing it based on this subjective scale of overperformance versus underperformance. Marco Rubio did great for him in Iowa. He overperformed what they expected him to do. Ipso facto victory. Ted Cruz performed as well as he should have. Therefore, that wasn't a victory. John Kasich overperformed from what he should have done in New Hampshire. Ipso facto victory. Donald Trump did what he was expected to do. Not really big news.
Republican candidate who wins every single demographic in New Hampshire. That is huge. That's huge. You can't take that away from the guy. And yet the story that night was not that Trump won every single demographic. It was who was coming in second or third. And that's just ridiculous.
I absolutely agree. I love that we got old school Brooklyn GOP radio here tonight, Russ. We got some people in the house that are going to be talking later. Yak Attack's here. William's in the house. Diana, of course, always with us. Thank you guys for hanging out with us here. Everybody in the chat room, thanks for hanging out with us. And if you're listening right now, you want to hang out in the chat, check out www.BehindEnemyLinesRadio.us. Click on the Listen Live button, and you'll be transported to the magical world where I almost said Brooklyn GOP Radio, where Behind Enemy Lines is broadcast without you touching a button, and you get to hang out in the chat and say whatever you want, along with a great bunch of people in-house and on the chat. Russ, we would be remiss as we travel through the weeks that were here if we didn't touch on the passing of Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. And I know that you have a whole bunch of clips that we need to talk about.
Well, not a whole bunch, a few.
No, I think it's a good amount. I am not. It is not a value judgment. You're in your safe place, okay? There's a safe area around the Gallo chair. You're fine. Just to make sure. So, let's talk about Justice Scalia. For me, he was the quintessential constitutionalist, originalist judge. And his decisions, whether you loved him or hated him, you could not deny the man was a brilliant legal scholar. Anything he put to paper was backed up to the max. I mean, reading his decisions is some of the most beautiful and important work that Supreme Court has done. There will never be another like him. We are all the worse for his passing. And I'm ashamed to see what our nation has done in trying to, while the body is still warm, talking politics and raging on about possible conspiracy theories and, who's going to replace him and whatnot. To me, at least the first night, they should have left it alone. But we had a debate that night, so it became a political football. Maybe it's my touchy-feely side, my feels, my tissue paper feelings here, but my God, if I was a member of that family and I saw what happened at that debate, I would be cringing and I would be hating America.
I disagree. The war goes on. The war goes on. There's no time for this wishy-washy nonsense. A conservative rock star died, and we have to fight the good fight. And Justice Scalia, before he died, actually said that he hoped, I'm going to paraphrase him here with a Brooklyn accent, he hoped that he wouldn't be replaced with a guy that would undo all the good things that he did himself. So,
amen.
So we got to carry on that wish, and I expect nothing less of the Republican Party. I expect nothing less, although the Republicans have disappointed me in the past, which we'll get to when we debate about Trump later.
So far, the words in the rhetoric are matching what you want it to be. But let's take a trip back to a magical time that was not 2016, but that was, I guess it was 2007, right, Russ? Somewhere around that time, when then Senator Obama had some things to say about what to do with replacing Supreme Court justices at certain times during a presidential cycle.
And before we play it, let's talk about this for a little bit. So the hot topic right now, for those of you guys who are not following the inside baseball lane here, is a Supreme Court justice has died. They have lifetime appointments on the Supreme Court. Under Marbury versus Madison, which was a Supreme Court decision back in the 19th century, the 18th century, I'm sorry, the Supreme Court gave themselves the power, which is not listed in the Constitution, by the way, to strike down laws that were passed by the elected branches of government, the Congress and the President. So they've given themselves this power to strike down laws, which is an incredible power. So they deem things unconstitutional. So now you have 9 unelected judges or justices sitting on the Supreme Court for lifetime appointments. Lifetime appointments. It's the closest thing to a dictatorship you can get. The closest thing to an Iranian mullah that you can get is the Supreme Court. So who appoints these people? Well, the President of the United States, under our Constitution, appoints Supreme Court justices, or really nominates them, and they get confirmed through the advice and consent of the United States Senate. The United States Senate, through their advice and consent, confirms who the President nominates. So this is why it's a big issue. This is President Obama's last year in office, Democrat, and we have a Republican Senate. So whoever President Obama picks will likely be a liberal left-wing maniac. And the Senate, which is controlled theoretically by the Republican Party,
will capitulate immediately.
I hope that Gene is wrong, and I think that he might be wrong. I think that Donald Trump in this race, by the way, has put a spine into people like Mitch McConnell because they're now making more bold statements.
I think what he's doing is he has them on notice that they better act the way they're supposed to act, otherwise Trump's going to call them out.
And this is from a guy like Donald Trump who's not even really a conservative. I don't know if Donald Trump would appoint a conservative Supreme Court justice, but I know for sure that he has a backbone and he would fight the good fight, and Mitch McConnell historically has not. So it's a good thing that he's doing that. One quick thing about the Senate, though, Gene, we've argued this in the past, too, or discussed this in the past. The Senate, the original reason why the clause in the Constitution was put in there that the Senate, through its advice and consent, would confirm Supreme Court justices. The original reason why that was in there was because before the 17th Amendment to the United States Constitution, I know I'm getting a little wonky here, but before the 17th Amendment to the Constitution, senators were picked by state legislatures, which means that state governments had a say in the government. So state legislatures theoretically would have a say in who was going to be put on the Supreme Court. It was like an ultimate check and balance that the states had. Now that senators are elected through popular elections, we've lost that check.
So let's frame the issue right now. The issue facing the American public and facing the American political theater right now is, should the Senate show some backbone and delay any nomination from President Obama to the point where he is out of office and that nomination will then get withdrawn? Or do they work with him and fulfill, I guess, what Democrats are saying now, not then, but now, as their constitutional duty to advise and consent pursuant to the Constitution? But it's a little different than that because, depending on what side you are in the argument, we flip-flop here as to whether a nominee should be even put up by a president in an election year. And as Russ has shown me, then Senator Obama had an opinion about this that is probably different than President Obama. So let's take a listen to what then Senator Obama had.
Well, of the Senate. As we all know, there's been a lot of discussion in the country about how the Senate should approach this confirmation process. There are some who believe that the president, having won the election, should have complete authority to appoint his nominee, and the Senate should only examine whether or not the justice is intellectually capable and an all-around good guy. That once you get beyond intellect and personal character, there should be no further question as to whether the judge should be confirmed. I disagree with this view. I believe firmly that the Constitution calls for the Senate to advise and consent. I believe that it calls for meaningful advice and consent that includes an examination of a judge's philosophy, ideology, and record. And when I examine the philosophy, ideology, and record of Samuel Alito, I am deeply troubled.
Now that was then Senator Obama regarding the confirmation of Justice Alito. Tables turned to what we have now.
And that was President Bush more than a year out from the end of his term. More than a year out, under President Bush, Senator Obama saying that he doesn't think that they should confirm any of his picks. Wow, okay. So now let's talk about another liberal lion, I guess.
Cuckoo banana lib.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to say it.
So, cuckoo banana lib.
Our own New York and hashtag New York values.
People's Republic of New York City.
Behind enemy lines. Senator Chuck Schumer. Senator Chuck Schumer. Let's hear what he had to say, Gene. We got both clips, by the way, of him contradicting himself. So let's play the first one.
And so our job is to go forward with the process, and then we'll see what happens. That's what Democrats
are.
Well, no, I'm not sure that's true. You know, the kind of obstructionism that Mitch McConnell's talking about, he's harking back to his old days. You know, he said, well, I want regular order. But in 2010, right after the election, or right during the election, he said, my number one job is to defeat Barack Obama, without even knowing what Barack Obama was going to propose. Here, he doesn't even know who the president's going to propose, and he says, no, we're not having hearings, we're not going to go forward, to leave the Supreme Court vacant for 300 days in a divided time. This kind of obstructionism isn't going to last, and you know, we Democrats didn't do this when we voted 97-0 for Justice Kennedy in the last year of Reagan's term.
After voting down Justice Bork and Justice...
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm outraged. I want to just, throw this computer right through the wall. We Democrats didn't do this. He says. And whoever that was interviewing him said, well, what about Justice Bork? Yes, you voted for Kennedy, who, by the way, Kennedy is the liberal justice. He's that swing vote on the court that sometimes goes to the liberals.
The most powerful judge in the world. Probably.
Yes, the most powerful person in the country, arguably. Because he decides what's constitutional and what's not. I mean, it's unreal. So for Chuck Schumer, and this is what he's saying now. That to leave the Supreme Court vacancy for 300 days is a travesty, right? That's what he's saying now. Well, let's play what Chuck Schumer, Senator Chuck Schumer, that piece of trash, said. Let's play what he said back in the days when George Bush was still president.
And the tables were turned.
The Supreme Court is dangerously out of balance. We cannot afford to see Justice Stevens replaced by another Roberts or Justice Ginsburg by another Alito. Given the track record of this president and the experience of obfuscation at hearings, with respect to the Supreme Court at least, I will recommend to my colleagues that we should not confirm any Bush nominee to the Supreme Court except in extraordinary circumstances. They must prove by actions, not words, that they are in the mainstream, rather than we have to prove that they are not.
Are you kidding me? Come on!
I think that we've just proven that they are not in the mainstream.
Politics is the art of the possible, isn't it? That's ridiculous.
So that is your President Obama and Schumer.
On us? Come on.
President Obama and Chuck Schumer are icons of the left. The Democratic Party are a bunch of hypocrites. Look at what they do and say. They prey on the dumb, uninformed Americans. And unfortunately, there's a lot of us out there who don't pay attention to what the hell is going on. They don't do any research, and they watch the news, and they live in the now, and they listen to Kanye West and these other idiots on TV.
With the exception of the last thing, we call those voters for Trump. No, just kidding.
Wow.
Just kidding. No, but there was something to be said about Trump playing on low-information voters as well. Just kidding, folks. Just kidding.
I don't know. Gene just threw me off my rhythm.
Within every joke, there's a little bit of truth. I think I'm actually just making the segue to the debate that Russ and Yak are going to have after the interview with Niger Innes. That's all I'm doing. I'm stirring the pot, as it were.
By the way, thank God Gene said the name, because I'm reading it here and I almost said it wrong.
Whoa, stop that.
I'm only kidding. I know Niger Innes.
By the way, Russ should know that in the edited version of this interview does not have the mistake that I did for Niger Innes' name. I called him Nigel.
Wow.
Okay, so that was a problem there.
That's better than
But you'll hear that right after the break. Folks, we're a little bit before halftime here behind Enemy Lines. I'm Gene, he's Russ. That's the gang out there, especially in the chat room. And while you're listening to the show, check us out on our website, www.BehindEnemyLinesRadio.us. Check us out on the Facebooks and the Twitters at BEL_radio. And if you miss any part of this live show here on Spreaker, you can listen to us on any of our rebroadcast outlets, including WNJC 1360 AM, Philadelphia's Renaissance Station, Rebooting Liberty Radio Network, Red State Talk Radio, High Plains Talk Radio and Sackheads Media, and K98 Talk. And if you miss any of those, you can catch us on demand on Spreaker, iTunes, Player FM, Podbay, TuneIn, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio, and soon also on Google Play. Oh, stop it. I'm trying to get the plugs out of the way.
Good job, Gene. Good job.
When we come back after this commercial break, we're going to have our interview with Niger Innes. Thank God I said it right. And after that, the great debate between Russ and Yak. Gene and Russ behind Enemy Lines will be back right after these reports.
I'm Vito.
And I'm Vito. And we're from WNJC's The Vito and Vito Show.
Every Friday at 1 p.m., you can hear Vito and Vito bring you the perspectives of two college-age millennial conservatives who are committed to defending the principles of free markets, liberty, freedom, and individualism from Brooklyn, New York.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Vito and Vito Show. And check out our blog posts and articles at VitoandVito.com.
Vito and Vito Show every Friday, 1 p.m. on WNJC 1360 AM, Philadelphia's Renaissance Station. In Brooklyn,
it's nothing but the truth.
There's a movement in healthcare today. It's a movement of people that's ready to stand up and take charge of their healthcare. It's people like you and me who are tired of paying too much for healthcare and getting too little. People who are standing up for their values and letting their conscience make decisions based on timeless principles. It's a movement that's sweeping the nation, and you need to be a part of it. Liberty HealthShare is leading the movement of people who are looking for an alternative to traditional health insurance. Liberty HealthShare is a healthcare sharing organization of people who are sharing the cost of healthcare in an easy and efficient way. Choose your own doctor, your own hospital, and live out your values in healthcare. Join the movement. Together, we're changing healthcare for good. Go to www.joinlhs.com or call 800-722-8041.
Who might you save?
Your mother, your father, your husband, uncle, aunt, son.
Learn FAST, F-A-S-T, the sudden signs of a stroke, and you could save.
Your friend, teacher, boss.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. F-A-S-T. That's F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. The sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in the recovery of
your neighbor, the waiter, grandmother, grandfather.
So learn FAST, the sudden signs of a stroke, then pass it on, because you never know who might save you.
Your wife, your colleague.
Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org, brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Behind Enemy Lines. Back on the air.
Gene Baradelli back behind enemy lines and on the phone with me right now. It is a pleasure to finally get on the show. A man I've been trying to chase down for about 2 years now. About 2 CPACs ago, we were hanging out at Louis Gomer's party. Nigel Innes, how you doing, pal?
I'm doing great.
All right, so it sounds like you're out and about. You're pretty much everywhere. I see you on Twitter all the time, on Facebook all the time. It's an exciting time right now, election 2016. The field is whittling down. What are your thoughts right now as we stand currently right before the South Kakalaki primary?
South Kakalaki, that's my favorite word, Kakalaki. I think, first of all, my supporters, my Tea Party constituency, they don't like seeing mommy and daddy fight. And they're a little disappointed by Donald Trump and Ted Cruz going at war with one another. But, look, we got to grow up. That's the way. This is a fight for the presidency of the United States, the most powerful position in the history of mankind. So it's not tiddlywinks. Having said that, though, and in spite of the, I guess the heartburn that the little civil war between Trump and Cruz is causing, my supporters and my Tea Party brothers and sisters all across the country, I have to say that actually on both sides of the aisle, on the Republican aisle and the Democrat aisle, this is the most exciting presidential race that we have had in our lifetime, I think, bar none. Even the historic election of 2008 on both tickets with Barack Obama and Sarah Palin, and the historic nature of that election. This election by far is the most exciting presidential election in my adult lifetime.
I would tend to agree with that, and I think it's for the first time in my adult lifetime, we're looking at a Republican field that, from top to bottom right now, probably the most conservative field that has ever been, canvassed, or the most conservative field that's ever been put forth in a very, very long time. Probably longer than in my lifetime. That's got to be a step in the right direction if you're a Tea Party activist like yourself, right?
It is a great step in the right direction. Even, so-called establishment candidates like Jeb Bush and Kasich and Christie, before he dropped out of the race, were saying the right things. I mean, the playbook had been written by the Tea Party. At least the talking points of what Republicans are supposed to say have been written essentially by the Tea Party since 2009 and 2000, and of course the great historic 2010 sweep. Even in the situation where you have folks that are calling Marco Rubio an establishment candidate, that's ironic as heck, considering that his conservative rating is pretty darn good. It's not as good as Ted Cruz's is, but it's pretty darn good. And the fact is, if anybody will remember, Marco Rubio was born out of the Tea Party revolution. So I think the movement is going in the right direction. It's influencing the party the right way. What I'm a little uncomfortable about and a little nervous about, though, is the degree of the chagrin that the establishment has, the Republican establishment tends to have, or, you know what, I don't want to generalize, some very powerful figures within the Republican establishment have, the consternation that they have to the two most popular grassroots, more popular candidates with the grassroots, and that being Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. That disturbs me simply because you don't want a situation where one or two things happens. Either A, somehow, some way, by hook or by crook, and the operative word being crook, the establishment defeats Donald Trump and Ted Cruz and flips in somebody that does not reflect the will of the grassroots of the Republican Party, because under those circumstances, I think you can write a ticket for Hillary Clinton to being the next president. And then scenario B, which would be almost as bad, is that Donald Trump or Ted Cruz do take this nomination, and that somehow then you have some powerful elements within the donor class or the establishment class that actually either sit out the election or worse, God forbid worse, actually rally behind Hillary Clinton. Both of those scenarios will be a disaster for not only our party, but I think more importantly for our country.
I agree with that as well. I mean, I think we're of the same mind on a lot of things here. But I think that the campaign, and at least I hope, is going to take a more serious turn for a lot of voters out there. I know the candidates are already serious, but I think the untimely passing of Justice Scalia has really set a more sobering tone, or at least it should be, among a lot of voters, because that truly underscores what the future is for our nation. That we're really at a crossroads here, and the passing of Justice Scalia really typifies that and drives that point home to, I hope, a lot of voters.
Well, you know, we've actually almost passed the tipping point. It's at a point now where we now need to reverse and drive the mixing up metaphors here, but put the car or the vehicle that is the American Republic into high gear in the other direction. I mean, we have had 7 years of Barack Obama. We had a re-election of a president with a disastrous record in his first term. And we have an opportunity to perhaps, and it's not going to just take one election, it's going to take what occurred with the Reagan Revolution, which was when the Reagan Revolution, Ronald Reagan came into power, he changed the whole narrative of discussion about government from what had been dominant since the New Deal, which is that the government is your friend, you know, the government is your doctor, it's your friend, you know, for the black community, it's your husband. I mean, the government was everything for people's lives, and that was the dominant narrative. And government, and Ronald Reagan came in, and his inaugural address said, government isn't the solution to the problem, government is the problem. And that beginning of that narrative, and people always say, well, Ronald Reagan, the government grew under Ronald Reagan, the deficit grew under Ronald Reagan. That is all true, okay? But Ronald Reagan, of course, single-handedly won the Cold War with his government spending, particularly in national defense. But more importantly, he changed the culture and the narrative of first the Republican Party and then the entire United States of America. And that trajectory changed. And by the way, to Barack Obama's credit, he recognizes this, and he admires Ronald Reagan for this, because Ronald Reagan changed the trajectory of the United States of America, not just for his 2 terms in office, but for the next 20 to 25 years. Because essentially, you can essentially call this the Reagan era. From 1980 to, actually I would even predate it to 1978 when you had the California tax revolt in California. But from really 1980 to 2001, until September 11, 2001, the dominant political focus was that we need to shrink the size of government. We need to cut taxes. Taxes were burdensome on the American people. Government was spending too much. That was the dominant narrative, so much so that even Bill Clinton, who was a brilliant politician, recognized where the winds of history were blowing at the time when he said the era of big government is over. That occurred because of the trajectory and the power of the Reagan Revolution. We need something like that to reverse us from what has happened under Barack Obama.
And part of reversing that is grassroots organizing and Tea Party organizations across America, much like you've been doing for years, Niger. I mean, I look at what you're doing with Tea Party Forward, and it really, I think that revolution comes from educating voters like you've been doing.
Yes.
Tell people about what you're seeing working with Tea Party Forward and how voters react when they find out the truth about who's representing them.
Well, I'm so proud to be chairman of Tea Party Forward. It's one of the most important national Tea Party organizations in the country. It's an amalgam of a variety of Tea Party organizations that have come together under its umbrella. And it actually is, I would say, on the cutting edge of the next wave of the Tea Party revolution, which is, we've already started the narrative, if you will, and dominated the narrative and say the talking points and the theme of the Republican Party. Where we now have to be successful, and this election is really going to dictate if we are successful or not, is making sure that we not only select the right candidates, but then when these candidates become elected office holders, they follow through on what they promised the American people. And I feel pretty confident that we're going to do that with the right head of our ticket. This is going to sound controversial to a lot of my brothers and sisters within the Tea Party. But I actually have a little bit of, just a tiny bit of patience for Paul Ryan and for Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is not an ideologue. He's certainly not a Tea Partier. He's not a conservative ideologue. But what he is a tactician. And if the winds of history are blowing a particular way, Mitch McConnell will get on the bandwagon and will be a surgeon for the president that he serves, should it be a Republican president that is elected. In the case of Paul Ryan is actually even better because Paul Ryan actually came out of the conservative movement. He is a movement conservative. Now, granted, it's more of the Jack Kemp wing of conservative politics, but he's certainly as conservative as most of us within the Tea Party movement. So I actually think, again, that under the right leadership, with the right president of the United States, that these guys, Speaker Ryan and Majority Leader McConnell, hopefully he remains Majority Leader McConnell. It's going to be a tough, very competitive year for the Senate. Majority Leader McConnell will do the right thing and do the proper bidding of a president of the United States that has a vision and has the guts to execute that vision.
Well, it sounds great to me. Folks, you got to go check out teapartyforward.com. I checked out the site. It's great looking. It's inspiring. You makes you want to go out and start canvassing right now. And Niger, listen, thanks for coming on the show. I hope to see you at CPAC in a couple of weeks, and we'll catch up even further down the road. I appreciate you coming on, pal.
Sounds good. God bless.
And that was Niger Innes from Tea Party Forward. Great analysis of the election 2016 race and where we stand right now, Russ.
In all seriousness, Gene, how do you do it? Niger Innes is huge. How do you get these
huge? My name is Gene Baradelli. I host Behind Enemy Lines. That's all I need to say.
I mean, one of these days include me on an interview.
Let me just say this. Well,
huge get, really. Great interview.
I appreciate that. And let me give a shout out to all the press flags and public relations people that help make Behind Enemy Lines the great show that it is. But now it's time to pump it up a little bit. Let's turn it up to 11 for our good friend from Town Hall, the UK correspondent there, and Behind Enemy Lines contributor. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you the one and only Andre Walker.
Hello and welcome. I'm Andre Walker, and your weekly monologue starts right now. The Democratic race took an unexpected turn this week, with polls showing Hillary Clinton has lost the support of women. But which was the bigger shock? That she lost women or that she had them in the first place? After all, the last time a Clinton was in the White House, his actions left a nasty taste in the mouths of a number of women voters, particularly young ones, not least Monica Lewinsky. She ended up both down and indeed out in the end. Makes you wonder whether the Democrats relaxed the blockade of Cuba so Bill could get a better quality of cigar in the White House this time round. If American women have anything to do with it, we'll never find out. But Bill didn't look happy as he stood behind Hillary at her New Hampshire campaign wake. I think everyone could understand why he looked so freaked out. But always remember, Bill, we had to look at her from the front, which is a much more traumatic experience altogether. But it wasn't all bad for Hillary this week. We're now told her staff deleted a total of 30,000 emails, making it impossible for investigators to work out what she knew about Benghazi. Cast your mind back to President Nixon, who was publicly ruined and thrown out of the White House. The public were outraged when he deleted just 18.5 minutes of tape. It all seems so trivial by comparison today. In the words of the millionaire pop hippie Johnny Mitchell, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. This week saw the death of Justice Scalia, a great American patriot, defender of the Constitution and friend to the United Kingdom. This broadcast is, of course, dedicated to him. His loss would have been a tragedy if it wasn't for the fact it gives Obama the opportunity to nominate a pro-abortion, anti-gun communist to the Supreme Court. That, my friends, qualifies it as a catastrophe. The reason that outsiders like Trump and Sanders are making such headway is because the American public think the political establishment are a bunch of lettuce-eating, mineral water swilling centrists with all the political bravery of a 9-year-old girl guide. Isn't it time the Senate proved us all wrong and blocked disappointment until somebody else is in the White House, proving for once they actually got some guts? Folks, whatever you do not hold your breath. That's this week's monologue. Now just time for the results of last week's poll, in which we asked you which Sanders would make the best president of the United States. Senator Bernie got 41%, chicken frying entrepreneur Colonel Harland got 9%, but 50% of you said neither, because they're both corpses. This week, we're asking which Hillary would make the best president. Email deleting Flanders' wife, Hillary Clinton, luscious model, Hillary Rhoda, or British crime writer, Hillary Boner. So which Hillary is it to be? Those options again: Clinton, Rhoda, Boner. We'll be announcing the results this time next week. The poll and the debate on this show are available on my Twitter at Andre JP Walker. Until next week, goodbye.
Check out Andre's column at townhall.com. Check it out on Twitter at Andre JP Walker. And read Andre's work here, Behind Enemy Lines. Now back to the show.
Clinton, Rhoda, Bona. Who's your choice, America? That was fantastic. But, dare I say, as great as Andre Walker is, and he's great, this next segment may be the one to shut down Behind Enemy Lines. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the great debate between Russ Gallo and Yak Attack, Yak Bard. Gentlemen, first and foremost, I have a coin in my hand. We're going to have a coin toss to see who will be the first to speak, or you can kick or defer, whatever you want to do. Russ, this is heads, this is tails. Since you are the home team, I'm going to allow you to call it. What do you call?
I call heads.
And, as everyone sees, it is indeed heads. Do you prefer to go first or second? Now, if you go first now, you go last at the end for the closing.
I am the Tom Brady of Brooklyn, so I will defer and let Yak open.
All right, Yak, you're going to be allowed.
By the way, going from Andre's accent to ours is going to be a little bit of a letdown for you folks.
It's a little bit of culture shock, I think. Maybe a little.
Let's give it a whirl.
All right, so what we say? Yak's going first. I'm drinking. Never mind. Yak, you get to go first. Yak Bard, the purveyor of the Yak Attacks.blogspot.com, joining us right now. Yak, I'm going to give you the microphone. You're going to have 30 seconds to open. Here you go, sir.
Little known fact, Yak
All
actually
right.
invented the color orange. Go ahead, Yak.
Yes, I did. And let me first finish my drink.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Wow.
No, okay, I'll finish it later. But, all right, my point today is we're not debating about, we all love Cruz, but, Russ Gallo says that Trump is his second, and I'm sorry, I got to disagree. Trump is an inconsistent, unhinged, not conservative thug. All right? I said it, and here we go. Now, I just don't understand. I started off as a rhino, and Russ Gallo made me more conservative than I was like 5 years ago.
There's the bell. There's the bell.
So how come? Hold on. But so I don't get it. How the hell does Russ Gallo embrace a piece of garbage like Donald Trump?
Wow, okay. Start the clock. First of all, did he just call Donald Trump unhinged? That was my first question. I'm just going to read some Donald Trump quotes while I have time, and then I'll let Yak respond. So here's Donald Trump. What can be simpler or more accurately stated? The Mexican government is forcing their most unwanted people into the United States. They are, in many cases, criminals, drug dealers, rapists, etc. Next, Donald Trump. I'm going to say, Mexico, this is not going to continue. You're going to pay for that wall, and they will pay for that wall. Next, New Hampshire. The bell rang. I heard the bell. I'll defer to Yak because I'm not going to go over my time.
Well, here's what we're going to do first. I'm going to allow each candidate to ask a question of the other candidates. Like you guys are running for anything. So I'm going to allow Yak to ask Russell first. Russell will have a minute to respond.
All right, I have a question, and it's going to be followed by a follow-up question. My question. Yes.
Whoa.
Very Jewish.
This ain't CNBC. You don't make the rules.
I have a question with a follow-up. Go ahead,
pal. We're all out.
Okay, fine. My question is: Do you like Marco Rubio's flip-flopping on immigration? Do you like that at all? Do you think that is a quality that you would seek in a candidate at all?
No.
So how come Donald Trump, the king of flip-floppers, there's not a single topic that he hasn't had? I'm not talking 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I'm talking 5 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever. There's not a single topic that guy has been consistent. Almost no topic. So why Marco Rubio is wrong on immigration, you don't like him, and why Donald Trump, you give him a pass.
Okay, so since he got to ask two questions, I want to ask a question with a follow-up question.
Good.
Number
that
one.
will be allowed, but you have 1 minute to answer.
Quickly. So, was Donald Trump ever in the United States Senate?
No.
Okay, so we're talking about flip-flops, right? So, would you agree, Mr. Yak Attack, that businessmen have a different set of priorities than United States senators that are claiming to be Republicans?
Glad you brought that up. Because one more time.
It was a yes or no question, but go ahead.
I'm sorry, what was the question? Okay, let me answer your question. I'm sorry, you're not going to get to stretch this out. The moment time I hear this Bisman shtick from you, I'm sorry. No, he doesn't
That's
get...
not shtick. It's your question.
No.
Reset the clock, Gene, please.
Again. 1 minute. Again. I am attacking him for inconsistency. My question is, where do we start with him being able to have a complete opposite opinion? He's been a businessman his whole life. So, what are you saying?
Hold on.
Yak. I'd like to redirect that question back to you.
I'm sorry.
What are you saying?
I'm waiting for the transcript. I have someone typing what Yak just said. I'm reading it.
Hold on.
Lost. Go ahead, Yak.
Let the man respond. Come on.
Oof, okay. So, here's Donald Trump on terrorism. When you get these terrorists, you have to take out their families. They care about their lives. Don't kid yourselves. But they say they don't care about their lives. You have to take out their families. When you're running in a Republican primary, folks, this is Russ Gallo talking now. I was just quoting Donald Trump. How do you lose with that? Yeah, here's my question to you. And I had to preface it with a Donald Trump quote. How do you take out a guy like Donald Trump in a Republican primary when it's impossible to get to the right of him on terrorism or immigration?
I got my answer. Because you're right. Maybe on these two topics, although I'll disagree, maybe let's just say these two topics it's almost impossible to get to the right. But on every other topic, 9/11, Iraqi war, on abortion, pro-life, anything, it's so easy to get to the right of him. It's like a joke.
as is this debate, but I digress.
I'm going to take
There's a question in the chat room. Go
I'm
ahead.
going to take it from our old friend, Jacob Cornblue. This is to both of us, Yak, so get ready for it. Which presidential candidate do you believe would yak attack America's enemies?
Inside joke there, folks. Yak Attack is what Yak is doing to this show right now.
Come on, Yak. Who do you think? Which Republican candidate?
After all, Ted Cruz. I mean, he just released his military plan, which is solid. Everything that I've agreed with. You know, a strong military, not being involved in frickin' Libya and every little cesspool hole in the freaking world, and damage our national standing and our international standing. Might I add.
This is why we stopped doing these types of shows, isn't it, Russ? This is why we stopped doing this.
By the way, folks, we are not cutting Yak off. Those abrupt endings are pure
I'm not
Yak.
doing a thing to him. I swear, I'm not that advanced technology-wise.
So here's my response to the question. I'm going to just respond with Donald Trump's words. So who do I think is going to protect the country, or yak attack our enemies, if you will? 2 quick quotes. 1.
I can't believe it's becoming a verb.
I love it. So here's what Donald Trump said about, and this is on terrorism and ISIS and our enemies. So here's what Donald Trump said: I would bring back waterboarding, and I'd bring back a hell of a lot worse than waterboarding. That was one thing he said. Then the next thing that he said: ISIS is making a tremendous amount of money because they have certain oil caps, right? They have certain areas of oil that they took away. They have some in Syria, some in Iraq. I would bomb the out of them.
Thank you for doing it that way.
I know Gene has to splice it up later for the radio. That's why I did that. So, who would yak attack our enemies? I don't know. I love a guy like Ted Cruz, but who do I know from gut instinct is going to slap around ISIS and all these thugs in the Middle East and look Putin in the eye and say, "What's up, punk?" Donald J. Trump. Go ahead.
All right. So I'm going to give Yak the last word because you won the coin. Actually, you get the last word.
No, I deferred, yeah.
So Russ, Yak
is
gets the last word. You're right.
Last word.
Yak, I'm going to give you, let's see here. We're running low on show time. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to close up.
All right, I got this.
Don't scream into the microphone. People are scared.
All right.
Don't be scary.
I will do my...
Okay, here. Talking to the microphone.
You need a mic, Yak. You need a mic. Hold on.
All right. Listen up,
down.
America. This is the Yak here. All right. I hope you have my undivided attention. We just heard that Donald Trump is he'll feel the best, it'll be the safest, because he talks a lot. Let me tell you something. Who do you want? Who do you be rooting for? A WWE wrestler or an Olympic medalist wrestler that will be able to tackle our enemies? That's why I'm for Ted Cruz. Ain't for big talk. I'm not for no thugs. I ain't for no inconsistencies. I'm not for dishonoring our country. I'm out. I'm for Cruz. Do whatever you want.
Oh my. Russ, I dare say you get the last word. 30 seconds, please, starting now.
Do whatever you want. Brilliant. By the way, I love Yak. Tremendous debate. I loved it.
By the way, this was a hashtag 2-drink minimum debate.
2-drink minimum, no joke. And by the way, great example. Great example with the wrestlers. Yak, great example. I loved it. I'm going to leave you with this. A quote by Ronald Reagan. First of all, I already started this off. I'm a Cruz guy. I almost had a Freudian slip there. I am a Cruz guy, but I can live with Donald Trump, and I just explained why I think Donald Trump is gaining steam. But let me just tell you why, and this is how I'm going to close it up. Here's what Ronald Reagan said. Our people look for a cause to believe in. Is it a third party we need, or is it a new and revitalized second party? Raising a banner of no pale pastels, but bold colors, which make it unmistakably clear where we stand on all issues troubling the people. And I argue that Donald Trump is no pale pastel, my friend.
All right, well, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for this debate.
This ain't over.
But there is somebody who wants equal time, and that's the Reverend Al Sharpton. Gene and Russ behind me lines will be back with some final thoughts right after the Reverend Al.
The show will be right back. But first, a word from Al Sharpton.
Good evening, Rev. Thanks
Good evening,
to
Rev.
you, Ed. Is this Groundhog Day 2? We are watching that was Attorney General Eric Holder, ABD's about some Republicans at home are already beating the drums of war. Today, the Pentagon refuted that claim. And he said the American people do not want him to, quote, dwindling, they do not want him dwindling his thumbs. You can get a gig as a contortionist. Intravenous fluids and pills coated with gelatin. We don't leave our women or men in uniform behind. It's a monument to the hubris of Dick Cheney, Representative Raul Labrador. Years of abuse. I personally apologize to Mr. Peebles. Just ask to soon-to-be former Congressman. Democrats are outright jitty. CIA's counterterrorism center. Veteran Affairs Secretary Shinseki. Why do I always mess up his name? Shinseki. I love my critics. I have fun with that.
Politics Nation with the Reverend Al Sharpton starts right now. Good evening, Rev.
Good evening, Dr. Dyson.
But wait, there's more.
And we will much about that be committed. So there's no real conflict. Michael Druniak, including Lincoln himself, Daniel Day-Lewis. Behind Monica Lewinsky, the one and only Trey Songz is here. But Allison Lundergan Grimes, Gina DeJesus. When Gina DeJesus, Tea Party challenger Matt Bivens. People don't want to have their Social Security overall. The Republican savior, Mark Rubio's big night. In evolution and Galileo, this whole thing of Galileo, America's changed. Unless IT and Skillets, President Putin doing something similar back in, it won't change this fundamental fact about the GOP. Just how absurd these attacks is. Nearly 6 months after the dangerous traffic jam, the Thai military says, my friend for many years, Ilyana Van Zandt. There's nothing there.
And they gave this guy a TV show? Let's get back to our show.
Gene and Russ, I think, back behind enemy lines. And by the way, Yak, your therapist called and said that was really, really cleansing what you did there. So I'm glad that you got it out of your system. No Medication Tuesdays. Russ, final thought time? You want me to go first, or you want to take it?
Go ahead, Gene.
All right, so my final thought's this. For those of you who've been following the whole Peyton Manning drama going on right now, it boils down to this. Peyton Manning mooned someone in 1997, and Sean King is still white pretending to be black. That's what it boils down to right now. You have a known liar, a known huckster, a guy who steals money from his own causes, basically, if you believe what is said in Breitbart, claiming that Peyton Manning's legacy should be basically thrown in the toilet. Because back in 1997, there was a lawsuit against the University of Tennessee, and Peyton Manning was accused of, yes, get this straight, mooning someone in the locker room that was of the opposite sex. Really? Is this what it comes down to now? There's a reason why this lawsuit didn't really surface in his entire career. Because it's a non-issue. It is another one of these schemes by this known liar to try to denigrate someone. It's absolutely ridiculous. I am so sick of activists trying to play journalist. And I'm about to go all yak attack on this guy, Russ. But not for nothing. Don't encourage me, Yak. It's not going to happen.
Scoosh on
It's just, I'm done. I am done with people like Sean King trying to make a name for themselves off of the misery of others. And that's my final thought. Go ahead, Russ.
Very nice, Gene.
Did you take a picture of me? Did you take a pic?
Can I get my final thought?
Go ahead.
My final thought is simple. Kanye West is a piece of...
Whoa.
Yeah, I won't say it. He's a racist mofo. Kanye West is a piece of human garbage. Do not ever pay for a single thing Kanye West puts out. Never. Ever. And Kim Kardashian, whoever the hell he's married to, I don't even know who this person is, don't support any of them. If his songs come on the radio, I couldn't even tell you what a Kanye West song was. Don't listen to it. He's a racist piece of trash.
And hip-hop. Garbage.
All right, and that'll do it for the show. But before we end it, we're going to end it Brooklyn GOP radio style, Russ. Honorable William P. O'Neill III, do you approve of this here show tonight, this evening?
So glad to be back. Love these guys. Love this show. Oh, hell yeah, I approve of every second. Love it.
By the way, William P. O'Neill is also drunk.
Next. And so are we, folks. We're all in the bag, and so is this show.
Since 6 p.m.
Eastern.
From the People's Republic. Oh, Lord. I'm trying to get the ending done here. From the People's Republic of New York City. Russ, it's time to shut this sucker down.
Gene, shut this mofo down. Kanye West is a piece of garbage.
All right. Good night, folks. Next week, we're back with some more fun. Our last show before CPAC. But until then, we are out of here. Good night, folks.
Yeah.
Our position has been compromised. It's time to roll out. Report for debriefing at www.behindenemylinesradio.us and look for regular communications via Facebook and Twitter at BEL_radio. You are the resistance. Behind Enemy Lines. Part of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. A rock radio production. Copyright 2015. Back in 7 days. Out.